And one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Dr. Moreno?
Here.
Dr. Vasquez?
Here.
Dr. Clayton?
Here.
Dr. Adams?
Here.
Dr. Thomas?
Move on to item number 1, organizational meeting of the Board of Directors, election of officers pursuant to Article 1, Section 5, of the official administrative code of the district.
Okay, President Moreno, I'd like to propose the slate of officers for the following year. The president would be Director Moreno. Vice president would be myself. Secretary would be Director Brown. Vice secretary would be Director Lane.
We get a vote.
You went through those things? Say again. Director Moreno is president, myself is vice president, Brown is secretary, and you as vice secretary.
Yes. Questions, comments?
President Moreno?
Yes.
Dr. Vasquez?
No.
Dr. Clayton?
Yes.
Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Dr. Brown?
Yes. You keep your read. Moving on to item number 2, appointment of members to committees and assignment to liaison positions. So the positions we have here are aviation support and planning, administration, administration and financial, marketing and promotions, business park, city and county liaison, state and federal liaison, manager liaison. So I'd like to hear anyone interested in either staying in their position or moving over to another committee.
The one that goes with the art program. So they have city and county liaison, and I'd like to attach to that one. I have interest in city and county also.
You want interested in any other one?
State and federal.
Federal. State and federal. Steve, do you have any?
One that was on last one is fine. Yeah, that one was. Well, so you can have a business park and then a business park, real estate, not a business park and. Yeah, the business park.
So you want to say this part in the city?
Please. Yeah, it's the administration and financing.
Administration and financial, that's.
Yeah, finance. Maybe something on that.
You want to go on?
We can't have more than 2 people on the committee, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm writing down who has interest and then I'll.
Then, yeah, because he can decide what he wants, so. Correct. We don't have to go through, we don't have to find these committees this evening. It's, I mean, it's on for appointment, but it's not. If there's not a decision, it could be put on to the next meeting. Obviously, the committee is still be in the meantime. We'll make it through December anyway. But that would give, we will time to go figure out what he wants to do. So it's, yeah.
But we wouldn't be able to have subcommittee meetings.
Right, okay, yeah, we'll get this done. Yeah. I figured
This is appointed by the president, so he can actually do it and submit it back in the market.
city,
So it can be done outside of.
Yeah, well, we need to do it, we need to do it at the meeting, but he can do it, maybe, you say, anything can change.
It's all it is, it was there be some.
National Board from Vandenberg, will take Vandenberg, use
Vandenberg.
That is, it's for the.
Aviation, you guys are, yeah, what about it? Yeah, one is the aviation. Yeah, but then- Do I have anyone else interested in marketing promotions?
And which,
I actually like Michael.
Yeah, yes, I'm majored in that at the University of Arkansas. Marketing.
yes,
Here I am.
you have somebody with them on it?
Huh?
You have somebody else with that? You, or who else?
Yeah, I would be taking
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Go Hogs.
Are we gonna have a Razorback nose on this?
You know,
All right, so for, I have here, aviation support and planning, I have Stephen Schuck. Vandenberg, I have Dave and myself. Marketing and promotions, I have myself and Michael. Administration and financial, I have Michael, Dave, and myself. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one, Dave. City, Michael and Chuck. Business park, Chuck and Steve, Stan Farrell, David and I.
I make a motion to approve that.
No, we don't have to.
Yeah.
It was all power there.
Do power. Let's go.
All right, moving on to item number 3, minutes of the special meeting held November 9th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 4, minutes of the regular meeting held November 9th, 2023.
Make one that get approved.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Moving on to item number 5, committee reports.
Mr. President. With three committee reports, 2 for real estate. The real estate committee met on the 14th of November with Abel Maldonado to discuss his proposed subtenant. And that's on your tonight's agenda. And there was a meeting with the City Public Works Department, Brett Bolgani, the director, and a representative from Forefront, who is here this evening to discuss our solar project. The city is proposing a 5-acre development for solar farm to support their series of oil wells, not oil wells, water wells on airport property. And it was on today's agenda, but we're going to push it into January when, because Brett's not able to attend tonight. We'll look at him to explain what they'd like to do. Get your opinion. The city subcommittee also met with the fire chief and deputy fire chief to discuss our ARP program. This fire chief discussed some changes that they proposed to make in beginning next fiscal year, July 1, that would they're proposing to bring a new engine to be housed in Station 6 here at the airport, with the purpose of it being able to better serve into the Orcutt area essentially. And there's a whole host of issues that the city subcommittee will need to consider. There's some cost issues. There are already cost issues regarding ARP. Now we need to think about what it means, because that would bring a whole crew, I believe 3 people, 3 firefighters that would live permanently 24/7 in the fire station. So there's some costs there that we need to consider and possible rent. Another thing that came up while we had the fire chief's attention was the issue regarding aircraft firefighting foam, which has PFAS in it, which is now illegal to have in California except for airports. The law says that once the state law outlawing PFAS, where it states that once the FAA approves an alternative to AFFF, the airports will have 12 months to implement that new firefighting foam. That approval arrived a few weeks ago from the FAA, the advisory circular. They have a new material mil spec for a substance known as F3. So I anticipate that in short order, the water board will be reminding us that we have a year to replace AFFF with F3. So we're going to, by this time next year, we're going to need to have F3 in our trucks. And there's a whole process that comes with that. There's training. It's a different material. It performs differently. So that the firefighters have to train to this new material. It can't be commingled with AFFF. It can't be commingled with different manufacturers of F3. So there's a bunch of learning curves that the fire department and the airport are gonna have to get through over the next 12 months to implement.
Any questions?
How did you on the negotiation with Dandridge on the ARP program? With Dandridge,
You really, it hasn't gotten any better since we met with them.
how was it in your opinion?
I think it's tough on the AFFF, I mean, the ARP side, because they're showing their costs, it's mainly cost recovery. So they're lower the cost. You'd have to either find a cheaper firefighter or lower service. And that's, that's a decision you all can make. If there's alternatives, there's contractors that do ARP, I don't know if they're cheaper. There's a overhead charge that's included in the charge that maybe there's some room for consideration. I like the idea of bringing the engine here. I think it provides us a much broader firefighting capability on airport. But it's not meant just for the airport, it's serving the entire region, not even the city, it's serving beyond the city of Santa Maria into unincorporated areas. So we should get some compensation, at the very least cost recovery, because it's gonna have wear and tear on a facility. You're gonna use water, power. So we're gonna have to go through that whole process to figure out what we're owed.
Thank you. Anything else? Moving on to item number 6, general manager's report.
I'm just gonna run down some items. It's been, we didn't have a meeting because of Thanksgiving, so just want to catch you up. On November 13th, I made a presentation to the grand jury, county grand jury, civil grand jury. They just invited me over to talk to them. And a very nice group of people. They just asked me a bazillion questions about the airport, what we're doing. Did my best to answer. I met with the city manager, the interim city manager, Alex Asada, and got some verbal commitments to amendments to the Pioneer Park lease that are on your agenda today. We made 2 trips for air service development. Some quick turns the last couple of weeks. One of the things we were able to do, we went with Glenn Moore and what's his name, Jim Bray from Jim Morris and Jim Bray were part of the team. We took advantage of the opportunity to fly in at San Luis Obispo. So I called up Bill Borgsmiller and we got a tour of ACI Jet and fantastic operation. And talked and shop with them, talked about commercial air service and corporate air activity and what have you. And then we proceeded on to St. George, where we met with Southwest Airlines the next day. To talk about air service. Good meeting, nothing imminent, but we're continuing the relationship and hope that they'll return to service. The Saturday following that meeting, President and myself had the pleasure of taking our old F-250 1968 fire truck on a tour of Santa Maria and the Parade of the Lights. We're on Channel 12 if you'd like to see us. I think it's minute 58 on YouTube. That was a lot of fun. Great turnout. The following week after that, we went to visit Southwest Airlines in Dallas. That was a lot of fun. Anyone knows the story of Southwest, and we were at Love Field, and the whole Wright Amendment and all that drama, and how they now dominate that airport, and like 5,000 employees at their headquarters facilities. Really impressive. They had a section walled off office that was just social media monitoring. Some ladies sitting in there with all these screens, and one screen that just had all the emojis that people are currently using online to talk about Southwest Airlines, which I thought was pretty impressive. Because, the poop emojis bounce to the top, you got a problem. But you gotta quickly respond to. But the great meeting, again, they're the ones that reached out to us probably 6 months ago and interested, just wanted to chat with us. They explained that their focus right now is rebuilding existing service that at other airports that were, reduced because of COVID. That's their primary focus. But they're very much looking out, they have 5-year plans and they're looking out at how they can expand their network. And they have reasons to think we might be an airport they should do business with. They said usually they won't announce new operations for probably 10 months before. They're very meticulous in how they go about it. But 18 to 24 months in advance of that, they be on boots on the ground talking to us and looking at things. And that puts that about September of next year, right about the time the Airfest is. So we invited them to come out to Airfest and we show them around.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for that. It's going to take a little while to put it together, but I think it'd be a great opportunity to make it happen.
Are they gonna go less than daily service, or they still have daily service?
What they're talking about is less than daily service. They're going to tip their toe into the market essentially. But unlike Legion, it'd be, a proper airline that has connections, most likely to be to Vegas. But I think we must be a higher quality of service. I think there's an airport to the north that can't handle them. That doesn't have the facilities to meet some of the things we talked about. They didn't mention any names. But what they were talking about and what I know around here, I'm thinking, oh, they can't get further north. They're in the San Jose area if they go this as far as they can fit their operation into, and we have plenty of capacity for them. So that's why I think Santa Barbara's maxing out too. So something we've talked about that at some point that's going to happen. The next on Friday the 8th, we had a Teams meeting with United Airlines, and nothing fantastic to report out of that. We just continue to have an opportunity to meet with people and keep our name out there. On the 12th, we had our meeting with the FAA Airport District Office regarding our airport capital improvement program. So usually at least once a year, as you're leading up to certain deadlines, you sit down and go over and discuss your priorities. Our issue with Fish and Wildlife continues to be a roadblock to a lot of things, prevent us from getting any further NEPA compliance approval, and it will keep us from any discretionary money, which is imperative if we want to get into any really serious projects like runway rehabilitation. Later we close session of a conversation so we can see where we're at with that. We owe a few things that we need to get done by the end of the month. We're going to get some pre-applications in for 3 different projects that we think we have sufficient NEPA approval. But those things have timelines or limitations on how long they're good. So we'll get our pre-app in, and then that'll lead to the next conversation of what they're willing to fund. We do have some entitlement money and some AIG money that is sitting there for us once we get our ducks in a row. And so that will probably form our priority on what we do, is what we can get to. So we'll have more information for you here in January, probably where we're headed with that. Oh, great thing we did yesterday, Nash, Tom was kind enough to set up a tour of Windset Farms. What a fantastic operation up there. And of course, part of that conversation was customs. And they were very enthusiastic with the idea of bringing GA customs here, and said that they would help put the word out and with their connections in Vancouver and that part of Canada where they're from. the way they have connections with different charter companies and aircraft owners, and what have you. So, that was great.
Did they agree to pony up any money to help with the payment of the customs?
To be determined.
I did make that request. So it'll be formal soon. They have offered before.
I will say this, though, like, the operation was amazing. Like, it's really crazy to see, and they were very, very enthusiastic about customs.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
It
It's
was
amazing. They're packaging vegetables and I'm like, they were picked today. I said, can I buy them this weekend at Costco? Oh, absolutely. They'll be on the shelf. So that's pretty,
Supplied pretty much all the goods to Costco.
yeah. Speaking of customs, slipped my mind, point to make. I'll move on. Gardens and projects. This week, the PFAS drilling that the contract you approved, they've been out doing that. Having trouble finding groundwater with the method of drilling that they hope they can inexpensively find it, so we might have to do something more aggressive to get down the water board insists that they get down the groundwater so they can sample it and determine if there's any PFAS in the groundwater, in that first level of aquifer. So that'll be ongoing. We're gonna do our best to schedule. There's some work along the runway that needs to get done, or where there was an incident some time ago. We're trying to hopefully schedule that night work to coincide with our emergency runway repairs work, so that we only have one closure. It's where the work's at, we're not going to conflict with each other. So that might happen as soon as next week, but it's supposed to rain next week, so we'll have a meeting on Tuesday. I guess we'll transition to the emergency work. Tomorrow, we're going to meet with Tartaglia, our engineer. We're meeting with someone, consultant or a contractor they know, that has a product they think might solve a problem we have with our runway. The runway is grooved lateral to the center line. And that grooving performs a very special function, which is so the water dissipates and you have less likelihood of having ponding on the surface of the runway. Problem is, our certain area of the runway is starting to fall, starting to lose aggregate, forming sharp edges that cut tires. You can't simply go out. We don't have a project that needs to get done, which is an overlay. That's years away because of our ACIP FAA issues. But we got to do something to band-aid it. Problem is, you can't just go out there and do a slurry seal, because then you defeat the whole grooving purpose, and now you're introducing the likelihood of ponding right at the touchdown point. Not good. So they think there might be an opportunity. There's some product this person is an expert at that can be applied that would alleviate some of that falling, hold it together, take some of the sharp edges off, hopefully, and not compromise the grooving. So tomorrow morning, we're meeting with them and walk down the runway and see what we can do. If it looks like it's something that'll work, and I'm hoping it is, then we'll have to figure out what it costs, and then we'll come back to you for a change order on the emergency work to incorporate that. So the rain kind of in a way, hopefully, maybe a good thing, because it might delay some of the work, but also give us a little time to possibly bring this new element of work into the project. On a good note, hopefully by close of business Monday, our taxiway construction project will be complete and the taxiway will be open. They've been doing punch list items with electrical and some profile burning on pavement, just dialing it in. So hopefully we'll have a new taxiway that's open. There's some follow-on work to that we have to do. We have to do some ALP, airport layout plan updates, which reflect that we reconfigured the taxiways. And there is a a change in taxiway designations. It's Whiskey and Echo are now Alpha 20, and Alpha 20, and Alpha 21. So that all has to get into the data out there that the pilot community uses. So we're working with the FAA and on making that happen. And also, hopefully, when we saw some emails today, in that process, they'll finally pick up on the fact that our crosswind runway threshold has been relocated. That's been submitted for some time now and hasn't made its way into the our database. But the FAA has confirmed they have it. So Tuesday, actually, the meeting we're having Tuesday on the projects, it's a safety risk management panel. So it'll be tower, FAA, contractor, airport, normal construction project, making sure everybody's on board with what we're up to. The G3 project, which is property to the south of us that's under lease, went to the city planning commission. It was last Wednesday. And it was approved and will be recommended for approval to the city council. And involves a specific plan amendment and then the first phase of development, which would be a storage unit facility. But it kicked things off and get moving. And hopefully as fish and wildlife things resolve, then we're going to start moving that direction and stuff.
Can I comment? On that meeting, I was kind of excited. Nash and I were at that meeting, and it was actually couldn't have gone any better than you would ask for. The planners were all on board with it. They all like the idea. And I think they're all feeling like this is the start of a lot of good things to come with the business park and that end of it. And I was excited that they had that attitude.
Well, Eric Justin's in the our tenant, the project lead, sent me an email and he was very appreciative of both of you for attending. That it was very important. And he's anticipating actually it being to the city council sometime in January. And along with the GT property, we continue to make progress on the lot line adjustment work. Where we split 2 lots from the existing one. Actually create 2 lots that don't exist right now because it's tied to the balance of the airport. And that will, as we discussed prior, present you all with some options on how you want to use this property in the future. I've met with some folks on more than one occasion that are familiar with the project, and there's some potential tenants that they would require fee ownership of the property if they wanted to develop there, which is all up to you to decide. But we're doing that so we're not waiting. If you decide to do that, we're not going to have to wait a year to make a move. That lot line adjustment will be in place. We finally saw some motion on the RV storage on Air Park. The city has presented it to the Airport Land Use Commission. As you know, part of moving the threshold of the crosswind was to free up the land use, change the land use there that would allow for that development. It now has to go through the process through the Airport Land Use Commission of actually acknowledging that that's occurred and that we're in compliance with their airport land use planning policy, which shouldn't be an issue. It's just part of the process that doesn't make anything go quickly. We're going to have a presentation today on our solar project, which is great. And you may recall we had some repair work that we did. SoCal Gas was doing some inspections on their pipeline that runs through the ramp in front of the Radisson. They completed that work as far as I know. Positive, there's no issues. And we continue to talk with them about some point in the future actually realigning that gas line off of the airfield. Rather than have a gas line right under where we run airplanes, which isn't ideal. But they're very open to that idea. They share our concern. So that's all I have for now.
That's all?
Yeah.
Alright. Thank you. Any questions on that? All right, on you. Before I move on? No. Moving on to item number 7, manager of finance and administration report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the demand register for your review and approval.
I make a motion that register be approved.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
We also have one tenant that is delinquent routinely, and when they do pay, they pay 2 months, so it's just the payments are not standard payments, so we just wanted you to be aware that there's one tenant on the field. Out of all the tenants on the field, who's on the list. And then we have a budget deviation. It's the first one for 23-24. And we are writing on the revenue that we cannot collect on for hangar 3029B.
I have a comment on that. That is false information. Hangar 3029B was leased for 21 years, or paid for every month. It was terminated for no reason. Josh admitted it with no reason in court. And I presented checks afterwards, so I object to the language that I was a debtor for the hangar 3920B rent. It's not true.
I was informed that this debt was uncollectible, so we're writing it off.
Well, that comes down to the CBAs that we've got it. Those ones that tell us what to write off.
I will stand by what I said. 21 years it was leased, paid for every month. And for no reason, as Josh was admitted in court, it was terminated, and I continued to make payments, but the payments were rejected. So I object to the statement as it stands.
Yeah, it's just also want the board to be aware that this revenue, we did not receive this revenue from another tenant. We weren't able to do that.
So it's just an accounting function so that we can balance our books and fix our budget.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to be accepted.
Second. All in favor?
I say no, unless the language is corrected, so it does not give a false impression of not paying the debt.
Anyone else?
That's all I have for you tonight.
Any questions? On it? Moving on to item number 8, public session. Statements from the floor will be heard during public session. Request to speak forms are provided for those wishing to address the board. After completing the form, please give it to the clerk. Requests requiring board action will be referred to staff and brought on the next appropriate agenda. Members of the public are cordially invited to speak on agenda items as they occur. Staff reports covering agenda items are available for review in the office of the general manager on the Tuesday prior to each meeting. The board will establish a time limit for receipt of testimony, in this case, 3 minutes. The board reserves the right to establish further time limits for receipt of testimony. On that, quite a few lots. Can we go ahead and turn the camera to the there you go. So we'll start with the first one we had here. It was. All right.
I'll take it.
Are you doing so, Alex, I'm Vice President of Aircraft, if you guys all know me. So we had a really good year this year, so good that, you know, we're making major changes in the company. And I would like to introduce you to Kevin Yates. He's our Chief Operating Officer. As a we did a pretty intense interview process with him, 3 days, and comes all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I'd just like for him to introduce himself and all that, so that way you guys know who he is, but he's pretty much, Teresa has all confidence that he's gonna help us get to the next chapter in our.
That kind of got me off guard here a little bit. For those who have been to Ascot, Wisconsin, that's where I grew up, so I'm very familiar with the EAA. You have introduced yourself to me in the last couple of weeks, but I'm celebrating 1 month here in California and really excited to be here with our craft organization, and we've got big plans for the future.
Welcome.
Moving on to the second one, Francisco Shepherd.
Tom, are you gonna take that time from you?
Pardon?
Are you gonna take the time from me, or send it over to you?
So yeah, we
Oh,
don't,
no, I first looked in for myself.
yeah, so we actually don't do, transfers of time. So we'll go ahead and,
Transfers of time and then freedom in the past, and I recognize that we continue.
well, we haven't approved it since I've been on the board for the past year, so I'm not going to start approving it. So we'll go ahead and, if you want, were you gonna be speaking up or was
I'll speak up, but right now, we also admitted when there was a correction made that when you did not allow a transfer in one of the meetings, then you corrected it, said, yes, it could be, transferred. I hear we have legal counsel on that.
or transfers that have been allowed?
I don't think it's a requirement. I believe it's within your discretion
Within my
as
discretion.
far as running the meeting.
Thank you. Well, I haven't done it before and I'm not gonna start now, so we'll go ahead and, either go with, you want me to go with Tom or do you want to leave Tom as go? Tom?
Good evening, all, board, staff. Hot house. I'm here tonight because when we went home for Thanksgiving, we had, closed up the hangar and I had left the work that I was, conducting on the table. I had a lot of hours in that work. And I think everybody knows what happened when we came back from the holiday. The hangar was cleaned out. And I'm here to tell you that the documents that were removed from the hangar that are mine, if, I'm gonna wait till we do a little more investigation, but if they don't show up, I'll file a claim. And we can deal with it on that basis. But, there's a lot of big parts that didn't go with the aircraft because they were extra parts. They were purchased for the longevity of the aircraft, and they were gonna be auctioned off. And it was quite a process to get all those parts, and had to buy a little software so that I could, when I took a picture of things in Russian, I could read it just like I got it from Blossom School. It was pretty interesting. So if it doesn't show up, I'll be back, but I'll file a claim and we can go from there. But it didn't probably look like much when somebody cleaned it up, and I can tell you that some of the things that I had delivered to the hangar for use, they wanted mattresses to put between the wings when they shipped them, so they didn't scrape them up and everything. I found mattresses in the dumpsters, and it was a good way to get rid of a mattress that I had at home. But what kind of surprised me when I looked at the mattress, it was the one that came from my yard, and it had one of my business cards stuck in the clear cover on it. So, so I know some of the stuff from the hangar went to the trash. So, it be what it is. We'll see what happens after the investigation. But we'll be talking about it together. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's right. Let's just no pleasure and we can do nothing.
Did you say for lawsuit?
I have some questions. An event that happened. Thanksgiving. We're gonna ask the general manager for some answers. He may be advised by council not to answer, but I'm gonna ask him. Martin, with respect to it, and by the way, the door's always open, always open. Much prefer to have discussions, rather than this type of event. The general manager, did you give assurances to George Wells, U.S. Air Force civilian, that our airport would support the move of the MiG-21, November 21 p.m. from Settle Unit to Edwards Air Force Base? Did you mention that to him? Next gentleman. During that difficult and challenging moving process, did you instruct staff to remove the now U.S. Air Force owned MiG-21 from hangar 3029B, boarded and discarded or destroy other items in the hangar? Now, in the later requisition. Are you aware that doing so would delay the move that you had promised to support? You have said the board, and the board gave you authority to do that. I want to know who you consider that boss. I will have minutes in the board members meeting with the boss that authorized that action. Function of the and as a general manager who promised to support the meeting, would you object? Sad moment. It's not a good airport, it's not a better things to do.
Copy of what I said. Copy of what I said.
Okay. That's everything.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan Shepard. As a member of the public and tangentially associated with what's going on, I just had a question regarding item 7 on the budget with regards to one of the last points made and the uncollectability of the debt that was existing on hangar 3029 Bravo. And I just wanted to know, did that uncollectible debt include the lack of payments received by the airport between the time that Mr. Basket was technically evicted and the hangar was storing or containing the properties of Ms. Francisca Shepard? So is that considered part of that uncollectible debt? And has that uncollectible debt now been resolved since the airport cashed the checks that we had provided to them to make sure that the airport was not left in a financial strait? Given the fact that they seem to have cleared the bank the day before yesterday, now 3 weeks after the hangar was forcibly cleared, and you have subsequently put a new tenant in there. So again, the question is, Is that period of time considered part of the uncollectible debt? And have you now collected on that debt since you cashed those checks from Ms. Shepherd?
That answer the question?
Not just no, no,
We don't answer questions.
I'm sorry, what was the answer? I couldn't hear it.
There's no, we're just listening to public comment.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see.
Thank you, Dan.
Mhm.
That's all I have for public session. Anyone else before I move on? Moving on to item number 9, authorization for the general manager to execute the upgrade scope and or schedule change acknowledgement. 1, change of guaranteed construction start date.
Mr. President, this is in regards to the solar project. The project's been delayed because of issues with PG&E on the site. So they can't make the guaranteed time, and they're asking for additional time to complete the project.
I'll make a motion since I've been pushing this solar project so we become more independent from the PG&E grid. And one day it's likely that the grid's gonna go down for one reason or the other. We want to keep the lights on at this airport. And this is the first step to do that. And so I recommend approval of the change of construction date, start date. Although we'd like to keep the pressure up because there's more and more indications that we will have more and more trouble keeping the lights on. And the more independence we have from the grid, the better off we are. So I'll make that motion.
Also, I did. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to item number 10, update from Thomas Hanson, from Corporate Power regarding the district sport project.
Thank you. The update I have for you guys today, is just kind of a general project timeline of where we've been and kind of the track we're heading on here. So, in September of 2022, we executed the contract for the project. In May of 2023, we've completed the due diligence for the project at that point, including title items, real estate clearances, things like that. In September of this year was, as Mark noted, the issue we ran into with PG&E, where we started to see delays from their team. We've received 5 delays since that time. Our new due date for their supplemental review is scheduled for the 3rd of January. So we'll likely either get an email before then or on that date, and they're letting us know that another delay, or letting us know the results of that supplemental review. So that's where we stand with that review. In September, we also submitted our plan design to the local AHJ here with the city of Santa Maria. Those comments were actually received today, so that review is now in the initial phase complete. We do have to address any comments that they've provided, which I have been told that they did provide some. So we're working to address those comments from that team, and then we'll be moving forward with the second view from the city. Our plan at this point, our planned construction start date, as I noted, or as noted in that in the Schedule A document that you guys have reviewed, we're looking at a scheduled start of May of 2024. Looking at early part of the month there, with likely PTO roughly, which is permission to operate the system from the utility, likely to come in October or November of 2024. We have secured our NEM 2.0 with the utility, so there isn't any concern from that standpoint at this time. We've seen a lot of delays from utilities across the region. This isn't a local issue, and our deadline for that NEM 2.0 is April of 2026. So the buffer we currently have from November of 2024 to that time is pretty substantial, and I think by all indications, we should meet that timeline of November 20. So, that is all I have for you guys right now. If you guys have any questions, happy to answer any.
There's been discussions also of necessary microgrid, so that if PG&E shuts down, the lights here stay on. Are you involved with microgrid at all?
I am not involved. We do have another member of my team, Sam Zanziger. He cannot make it here this evening. He will be at your January meeting. And he could potentially field any question for microgrid at that time.
I hope the lights don't go out before then. Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? No?
Okay. Why, it starts in May, why October? 6 months, why 6 months?
Yeah, so, typical timeline we see for the construction of these projects is usually anywhere from 3 to 4 months for the general, build. What's that?
Are you padding it a little bit?
Some of the delays that I myself have seen as of late from the utilities, are increasingly long response times from them to schedule the shutdown to then tie in the system, as well as scheduling the inspection for permission to operate as well. Unfortunately, not in this particular region, but I've seen lead times anywhere up to 3 months for that type of review. So, just building in some potential for them to drag that timeline out. That's a rough estimate of where we think we would be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right, thank you.
Item 11, discussion from Sam Zanziger. Sam is not here, so we will be tabling that for the next meeting. So moving on to item number 12, nomination for 1 regular and 1 alternate special district member to Santa Barbara LAFCO, and authorization for the president to write in nominations on behalf of the district.
You also put that money in.
Yes, Mr. President, this has been on last couple agendas, allowing you time to decide if you want to participate in this, and if you could provide that information to us so we can complete the applications and submit by the January 4th deadline. Yes, it has to be mid or
Motion to authorize the president to make the nominees for the LAFCO.
And Ash, I mean, like you do the last go, that's somebody else.
Sure, yeah, we'll talk about it.
Mr. President, I think what the LAFCO is looking for is minute orders for both positions, specific people that are approved by your board to participate in the nomination process.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Yeah, all in favor? So
I'm unclear. We need to make an actual appointment.
Right. Okay.
So we should nominate people and then have the board vote to, have that person be represented.
And there's 2 positions. There's 1 regular member and there's 1 alternate. In their nominations, you still might not be selected.
I'll offer to be the regular one. You said it.
I'll second. I will be honest with you, David, after seeing the way you just treated, Mr. Bell, I do not feel comfortable with that.
Your decision.
You have to do this today?
Does this have to be done today?
The deadline is January 4th. If, or we meet,
We have one more meeting between now.
or a meeting on the 28th.
No. Well, maybe, no. Nobody will be around.
You don't have to participate in this. You could just ignore it. There's no obligation to participate in the nomination process.
Well, then what would happen?
You just wouldn't, none of you would get selected to be on LAFCO.
This is nomination for somebody from our district to be potentially in the pool who might be put on LACO, which is the Local Agency Formation Commission. So this is what obviously looks at expansion of boundaries, if the city,
Want to go for it?
okay, change boundaries, things like that. We don't have to have somebody on there, and the fact somebody's nominated doesn't mean they'll end up on there.
Okay,
So we'll do, you guys ready for me to vote? Or, okay, yeah.
So we just be clear, we should do a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion that Chuck is number one and Nash is the alternate. For the lot.
The regular and nationally alternate. Chuck is, Mr. Director Adams is the regular and
I'll second. And, it's authorization, right? So we'll go ahead and, all in favor? So moving on to item number 13, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the 26th amendment of lease between the district and CJJ Farming.
How much is that lease? 39,956 a month. Yeah. I'll make a motion that we go. Okay. Let's get your motion. I'll make a motion for it. I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion and a second, so all,
I'm sorry, was that Dave or Michael?
I'll stay. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 14, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the 9th amendment of land lease between the district and the city of Santa Maria for Pioneer Park.
Yes, Mr. President, I met with, as I mentioned before, this interim city manager, we agreed on a, new, annual rate and, the inclusion of, CPI adjustment, annual CPI adjustment, which the current lease doesn't include. The rate was determined based on a, an appraisal that was done about a year and a half ago. Given the small amount of revenue, it really didn't make sense to go do another up-to-date appraisal. So we agreed that we simply use this in a CPI adjustment to bring that appraised value to current numbers. And that's the number that's reflected in the proposed amendment.
So is this the one that was 6,000 a year?
You know, and I just misspoke. I am talking about 14. 13 is we just like you to extend the existing 3-month extension to the existing agreement so that we have some time to get the actual 10th amendment through the city council.
So we have, the lease is not completed yet?
No, we still have to, well, we'll submit to them and then,
Okay, so you just want to extend three more months to get this?
yes.
Your agreement says 1 month.
Or is it 1 month? Because we're getting to February 1st. You're right, it's 1 month.
Is that enough?
January 1st to January 31st. So it'll be 1 month.
It should be, and the lease amendment can be dated back to February 1st, if it happens in
I
mid-February.
will make a motion to extend it 1 month.
Second.
I want to comment on this thing. I think with the city, I think that Alex Basad, I think he still shows interest in buying that property, even though the lease is fairly inexpensive for them. I think that he still shows interest in that property. To have the city, to get the city on. So I believe he thinks he can get grant money to take and buy it.
And in my discussion, you're correct, and he asked that, given the schedule that we talk in January about just that.
Okay,
What's the future of the park, and just have a conversation with him.
I would be okay in the lease, to do the lease, to actually put something in there that we can, if they opt to buy it, then the lease, they wouldn't have to wait till the end of the lease.
They don't have to in the way it's written now. I mean, if both parties agree, we can terminate the lease.
Okay. Which one?
I'd like to keep this as simple as possible. Just we're taking the rent up from a 30-year non-adjustment to and put a CPI for 5 years, so that if it takes a few years to get something done, or if you decide not to do it, at least we've got something that represents fair market.
Okay.
So just to be clear, this item 14 is the authorization for the president and secretary to execute the Ninth Amendment of the land as written in the board package, just extended. the full 1 week period.
Yeah, I got it. I am conflating two steps. The first one is what Josh has stated.
So that's what's on now, and
No,
I'm just converting. it for comment. Okay. So if there's a motion and a second for approval of that.
Are on number 14 or 13? I'm confused.
We're on 13.
No, 14.
We're on 13, we're on 14.
We are on 14, we are not going into 15, we haven't authorized it yet, so we are still on 14.
Okay.
So we had a motion.
So
we have a
the
second.
part, the Pioneer Park, just more discussion was for, that was the $6,000 a year deal, wasn't it?
That's the next one.
Okay.
It's in time. So okay, so we have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 15, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the 10th amendment of land lease between the district and the city of San Diego Franklin Park.
As I've already confused you, that is the actual, 10th Amendment would actually adjust the rent up to, based on the appraised value, extend it to 5 years and include a CPI adjustment annually.
So it goes to 8561.
Yes,
I'll make a motion, 8561,
A month.
no,
Oh, no,
it's a
yes,
year.
excuse me.
It's roughly 8% of appraised value.
Right.
so we're collecting $8,561 a year. Off of this park.
Yep.
Well, I'll pay 10,000 for the park, give it to me for a year, I'll put it at 10,000, how does that sound? Now, we're having a party at the park.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to item number 16, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the First Amendment of Service Agreement for professional services for the Santa Maria Airport U.S. Customs Building remodel between the district and Rabat, Albrecht and Associates, Inc.
This is the agreement with the contractor that's working on making some improvements. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Tom? But just to bring them up to date of what this all is headed.
To give you a brief update, as I'm working with Rabat, and I believe the permits have finally gone through the city, so, and I'm ready to get this construction finished as quickly as possible, because the demand is out there for custom, so we're partnering, and Martin and I will be meeting with, other folks regarding the customs building, just to make sure it's on track.
Just to add to that, it's kind of off, point, but actually next week, we're hoping to meet with Chris Kunkel from the Jet Center and start off talking about operational issues and how the customs and adjacent uses are going to function.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, the motion we approve.
And when's that gonna be completed? The building, everything?
Well, I've told people that in the first quarter of 2024, that we would like to have customs be operational. So we're gonna push it as fast as we can. Martin's been a big help in trying to move the ball forward. Yeah, we're excited.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 18, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the First Amendment to license agreement and consent of license between Santa Barbara County Fire Protection District and the Maldonado Companies LLC pursuant to legal counsel review and approval.
There we go, 17, sorry.
17.
All president. Item number 17, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the service agreement between the district and Tartali Engineering for professional services for the runway and taxi emergency repairs.
I'll make a motion that be approved. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we move on to number 18, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the First Amendment to license agreement and consent of license between Santa Barbara County Protection District and the Maldonado Companies LLC pursuant to legal counsel review and approval.
This is brought back from last time. I'll make a motion to approve it as written with the new.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item 19, authorization for 2 staff members to attend Central Valley Facilities Expo to be held March 20th through the 21st, 2024 in Modesto, California.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a relatively inexpensive conference with real potential for learning for our staff.
These would be rank and file maintenance staff. Than the
I think that's a good idea, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will be moving directly into closed session. Thank you, everyone. 5 minutes. We'll be good in 5 minutes. We exit closed session with no reportable comments. Actions, no reportable actions. We are now moving to item number 21. Director's comments. So let's go and start with Basket.
I have a couple comments. One is, I've asked in the past, if we consider something failed. That is the change in hangar rents penalizing people who are not up there flying. I just had a discussion with a gentleman here that is paying a penalty because he's building an airplane. And, if this would not be built here because of the penalties that they're on for building an airplane. They're afraid to speak up in some cases. I would like to see that revisited and that those penalties removed. And go back the way it was. I agree to try something. If it doesn't work very well, then change it. So I recommend we put it on the next agenda, changing it back. So we don't have the penalties and the staff time to go out chasing around.
No, don't close the door. Let them go.
Listen back in.
All right.
No. Okay.
I was, earning tax.
I was going to get back in and quiet. Some of this actually.
We're in open session, we're started, so.
All right. So I recommend that we put on the agenda for a vote to change it back to where we don't penalize people who are building airplanes and causing extra staff times from Martin to come in and say, hey, I've been flying or not been flying. I've seen people have to come in and give reports, which are not required by the. That's a suggestion, a strong suggestion that would correct the mistake, no intention, but it didn't work. And we now have more empty hangars than we had before. So I would like to say that despite we generally have good agreements together, we have some strong disagreements. But I would like to say that from my standpoint, 23 years ago, plus or minus a few years, there was a special baby born that came to this earth. And I just want to say Merry Christmas for every one of us, heartfelt, no matter what arguments we might have. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and we remember the reason for the name Christmas.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting with Battalion Chief Dandridge, Fire Chief. It was Martin, Nash, myself, met with Dandridge and his second in command, or whoever was with him. We were in there to negotiate them moving into our fire department, and in so doing, we're hopefully negotiating down the $900,000+ that we pay every year for the ARP program. Dandridge said that there was only 5 fire departments. We would be number 6. We would be considered Fire Department 6.
Station 6.
Station 6. And he showed the area off of the airport where they would be controlling this area for Station 6. And that freed up the other 5 stations tremendously. And Station 4, as it stands right now, has to shut down and come to the airport if the airport needs help. And everybody in Area 4 is without a fire truck. So it means a lot to be able to make this happen. But in the same instance, we're not responsible for the citizens of Santa Maria. We're responsible for an airport. And Dandridge is responsible for the citizens of Santa Maria. And we, in good earnest, asked him, what is it worth to you?
His answer to us and his friend that was with them, his answer to us was that, well, you're gonna get better service because we're gonna have more guys out there. And we're not gonna drop that $900,000 down one penny. In my opinion, that meeting was a failure, because the reason we were in there is we were in there to lower down the ARP program. But instead, we talked about how wonderfully cheap the ARP program is right now. And it looked like I was money grubbing all along the way. Bottom line is, that should be scrubbed. If that's the only deal that we got one in the morning, one in the evening, we should leave it like that, because we're gonna be using our resources to better help the citizens of Santa Maria when it's not our responsibility. And I love the citizens of Santa Maria, but I also love the citizens of Washington State, but we're not gonna help them either. Bottom line is that we need to tell Dandridge that we got a better deal for you. It's $40,000 a month to lease our building, $40,000 a month, that's $480,000 that we take off the ARP program and pay them only $500,000. If not, they can go ahead and build a fire department right across the street from us for $15 million, and they will be able to make it to our airport within a minute. So we're still looking good. So what is it really worth to them to do this? Other than saying, don't worry, we're gonna be right there for you, you're already there. You're already there. So if they don't want to work with us on the amount of money we're paying on the ARP program, we need to counter them with, then lease our building. And Dandridge also told us in that meeting that just right off, a couple of miles right off here, we're in the county, or a mile, we're in the county, and he's able to charge for every one of those visits. Well, I said, well, if that's the case, then put us down for a percentage of that, since we're facilitating that. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, he also said that the other fire departments would pony up their resources, money to this place, so that they would have more funds. So we're making it a win-win for Dandridge, and we're again taking the brunt of the ARP program again. And I for one say that if he doesn't want to work with us on the price of the 900,000, then we should just make it simply lease the building. And what's that lease to you? It saves you $15 million. It saves you $1 million for another fire truck, and $1 million for the other guys that go in there. They're paying bank to just be right across the street from us. It makes no sense. We should be getting a $40,000 break every month for them being in our fire department. So that's one issue. And the only other issue I had is that if there's an issue with any ongoing business at the airport, and Martin, you need direction from the board members, and you need to call the board members for that direction, then I think it's very important that you make sure you dial all 5 of us. Because if you only dial up one of us on this board to get direction from your boss, then I think you're missing out on the other 4 members that are sitting here, that all of us get it. We're all 1/5 of your boss. So I think that it behooves you to call all 5 of us on anything moving forward. If there's any issue about what you should be doing, I think that's the protocol, isn't it? That's where I think we're at with that. So I would assume that in the future, if there's anything with the airport and you're not sure which direction to go, and you need to call somebody on this board, then you have to call all 5 of us. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, just to clarify, the only way you can communicate with all 5 board members about a single issue is in a notice meeting.
But you can, if you're gonna call this, you can hang up and call a second one, hang up and call the third one.
You actually can't. It's a hub and spoke serial meeting under the Brown Act. And you can't speak to more than 2 board members outside of a public meeting.
And so you're saying that he gets to elect which 2 of us to talk to?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't want to get into a whole back and forth, but, Martin, like myself, serves at the pleasure of the entire board. And so the consensus of the entire board should be approving or not approving the way we do it. But yeah, we are, myself as well, we can only speak to 2 members at a time about any issue outside of the board meeting. under the Brown Act.
We should.
And that's why we have,
If there's an issue, we should take and talk about it here, and give Martin direction,
and
jointly direction to do it, to handle it, so.
So that's what I would think. I would say you would not be calling up any one board member for a directioning, because then you're not giving the other four a fair shake here, and instead, you just set it for the next meeting so that we can all deal with it at the same time.
That's what happens.
And that's why we have the committees that we appointed earlier, so that there are people that Mark and myself are supposed to communicate with in advance of the meeting where you come before the board for the full decision.
Aren't we supposed to just make comments?
Yeah, that's just comments.
Because there's more to all this story, just see
Mhm.
a lot more to it.
You can see, I'm ready to hear. You done? I'm done. Cool. So I want to start by saying, a lot of legwork was done, this year, has been done this year. As we all heard during the general manager's report, our staff has a lot on the plate, and I just wanted to say I really appreciate each and every one of you, like honestly. I was hoping that would be the only comment I had to make, tonight, but we all witnessed something today that just does not sit right with me. Everyone present today witnessed one of our directors directly attack one of our, employees, our district employees, over a personal matter in a professional setting. I also find it very sad that a sitting director believes that the general manager has the autonomy to make the decisions that he was angry about. A sitting director should know that decisions come from a majority vote of board members. If I were to see one of the leaders that I oversee in my day job act the way this director did, I would have let them go immediately. This situation makes me question this director's fit on this board and as a community leader as a whole. And that is the only comment that I have to say.
Okay, well, that's very, very nice. One thing, according to Mr. Clayton's direction, Martin, we hired Martin to do a job. You know, he needs to make decisions. I have total faith in the decision he's making. When it's our general manager, if he has to make that decision, I'll back him up 100%. So that's why we hired him. He's got that autonomy to make those decisions. And needs to run a business. And that's the only comment I have.
I agree with everything. Everything's been said here tonight. I stand behind Martin 100%. I think he's doing a good job. I feel right now he's feeling beat down, and I don't want him to.
Not one bit.
I hope you're not. I hope you're not. I hope you're not beat down at all. I think everything you've done here has been directed, and I think that's fine. So the same with all the staff. I stand behind all the stuff. That's my.
I can get it well. Can we, yeah. Mayor,
Can I get a motion that we adjourn till January 11th?
I'll second that.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's good for the board.